Hi everyone and welcome to this first session of HP Podium Career Conversations. This is brought to you by YEN Costa Rica. My name is Juan Pablo Castillo and I work for TS, the Delivery Readiness Organization.
Hi everyone, my name is Patrick Taylor. I work in finance, specifically Credit Collections e-commerce organization. And today we have the great pleasure to have these two directors, Lisa and Eric. Lisa, Eric, thank you very much for being here. Our first session of HP Podium.
Our pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, we would like to understand a little bit about your story within HP. Tell us a little bit about your background, and we would like to understand. We have a lot of employees right now looking at us, and they would like to understand how do you get to be a director within HP?
I'll let Eric start. He's the guest in Costa Rica. I'm the home base.
So, good afternoon, everyone. Pleasure to be here in your wonderful country. I'm Eric DeBoer. So let me tell you about my background in 1-2 minutes here. As you can tell, I have a bit of an accent. I live in the States. We've been in the States for quite a few years with the family. But my background is in Belgium, Brussels. And between Brussels, Belgium, and it was a few years ago, and now the road included a few visits to countries like Switzerland, where I spent a good 10 years of my life, where I met my wife. We spent a few years in Germany, and in the last 10 plus years we've been living, and happily so, in the States. I've been with HP about 20 years, different functions. I've been in sales, finance, marketing. I'm more in an operational job, and I'll do my best to share what this company has helped me build over the last 20 years.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, great. So Lisa Folger, and a peer of Eric's in the Managed Services PPS Americas team. I am a director over the customer support and the remote management delivery centers. I joined HP 23 years ago, and in California as a summer intern student, thinking it would be a very fun 3-month adventure to join a big company and to live near the beach. And 23 years later, I still live near the beach, but in a new country, Costa Rica, my new home over the last 5 years that I am greatly endeared to. I too have had quite a varied path in HP. Never would have expected that where I entered finance, which was my degree, that I would venture from. But since finance, I went into marketing and sales and operations and product development. I'm currently in operations and have had a combination of global and Americas roles. And I think the big fact I have been at HP for this long has been the diversity of opportunity. Right. So I really thought I would stay in one narrow field, and HP offered so many different diverse experiences and opportunities, and I've loved the learning and the challenge along the way.
Good, thank you very much. Well, as you may know, the purpose of this call is for the Costa Rica population to get the chance to listen to senior management like you, and get to learn from your experiences, and they can put them in practice, right, and boost their career. This is all about boosting the career, right? Mm-hmm. So let's get started with a couple of questions, if you don't mind. When you hear the phrase connecting the dots in terms of career development, what do you think? What comes to your mind?
You want me to take this one first?
Sure.
Well, I think in this context of the discussion today, for me, connecting the dots is you guys are in the early stages of your career. So, and I can remember when I was there quite a few years ago, but it's for me connecting the dots between now for you guys is a time to dream, right? Dream, be wild, be ambitious, right? And a few years down the road, well, reality sinks in, life teaches you a few things. But I would say, if I were to try to articulate what ultimately made the difference between my dreams 20 plus years ago and today, it's a result of not so much experiences in the first place, but I would say decisions I made along the way. Like decision to leave my country pretty early, right? And one of the main differences between Lisa and I is Lisa is from a large country. I'm coming from a very small country like Costa Rica, right? So I will be frank. Is it possible that the next CEO or a future CEO of the company would come from Costa Rica? Yes, that's possible. But unlikely that the CEO would have worked all his life or her life in Costa Rica. So, and I made those decisions. So I left to Switzerland, then spent time in Germany. It's as well decision to, in the early days, to intentionally build a stack of experiences. You know, I went from sales to finance, and then marketing, right? And ultimately, it's over the years you realize that you build the bench, right? And all I can tell you is 20 years down the road, it's clear that all those decisions to be intentional and somewhat aggressive in how you are driving yourself is what possibly helped me get to where I am today.
Yeah, that's great. So I would build on that because I may have been less intentional in my career, and I think that that's okay. I do a lot of kind of coaching and guiding of recent MBA graduates, and the thing I tell them is what you are thinking of for your next 5 years, you know, great. Jump into experience and then find out if that's really what you had intended. Because for me, I did that with finance. I jumped in, did a finance role for a few years, and then I thought, oh no, is this all there is? No, I'm ready for something different. And so I jumped to marketing, I jumped to sales, and started my cross-functional tour. And I think for me, the key to that is being open to opportunity and being open to challenge, open to learning. And, you know, with a company like HP that has such broad, diverse opportunities, you know, it's endless. And I agree. I mean, having different geographical experience is really important. I mean, one of the richest learning experiences I had was when I was leading the HP education business, and I got to travel to over 54 countries.
Wow.
So when you work with so many diverse cultures and languages and get to travel and meet with customers and very different experiences, it just opens the door of possibility, and you become very empathetic, and you're just have a broadened sphere of influence and judgment. And I think that that's really instrumental in advancing your career. I think I can remember a couple times being offered an opportunity. I thought, why on earth would I want to do that? And I had a mentor and, you know, somebody in my life that said, you know, this is a really great opportunity, just jump in. And, you know, it was absolutely a wonderful learning experience. But I had to be convinced of that. So I would say, you know, be open, really embrace opportunities as they come to you, because you may not always see that as a direction in your pathway, but every next step leads to something better if you know, take advantage of it.
Okay, great, incredible.
Thank you.
So when you think about strengths, behaviors, or skills that have been built within your career, this, let's say 43 years, right, altogether, what do you think are essential skills that you might acquire during those years?
You go first this time.
That's fair, it's fair. Yeah, I don't have like a top list of strengths, because for me, the key to strengths is understanding your own strengths, being able to embrace them, and being aware of and surrounding yourself with people that have different strengths. So I'm a big believer of the whole Gallup Strength Finder assessment, and if you haven't done that, I highly recommend you do that. I think the power of strength is creating a rich and diverse team that complement each other. I am a big believer that, you know, the more creativity and innovation comes from a diverse team with diverse ideas. So, you know, I'm aware of my strengths, I'm aware of my leadership team's strengths, they're aware of their team's strengths, and we use that on a day-to-day basis to make sure we're maximizing the potential, the creativity that can come from that. But I'm often asked the question, and so I'll answer it here because it'll probably come up. When you hire people, what are the, you know, main things you look for? So for me, competence is, so whatever field. If you're going to go for a finance job, you need to have some financial competency. You know, that's kind of a basic. But then there's two things that differentiate people from me, and one is attitude and outlook. So, you know, how positive are you? How embracing of change and risk and agility. And the third one is emotional intelligence. So how well can you adapt to different styles? You know, because we in HP and outside HP, we work with so many different types of people with different strengths, different skills, different styles. And your ability to flex your style and connect and relate to people that operate in a different way is a huge factor of your success.
Incredible. Hopefully you're taking note of this. We have 3 strengths: competence, attitude, emotional intelligence. Eric, what about you?
I will complement. I will not go the strength route, but I will complement. Big strength and skills are key, right? And skills are things you develop over the years through experiences. But what I think has been key to me is having a core set of values and be true to them, right? It's and ultimately be able to look up yourself in the mirror and say, am I true to my values?
Mm-hmm.
So let me give you I think I have a core set of 4 or 5 values, things like courage, integrity, anyway. But I recall at some point in time when I was in finance, I looked up myself in the mirror one day and I said, is this what you want to do for the next 20 years?
Mm-hmm.
And the feedback I was getting is, Eric, we can help you develop yourself, and if you want to build whatever career path may work for you in finance, we will help you. And the answer from a value standpoint is, I would lie to me.
Mm-hmm.
I would try to cheat on me if I were to say that's what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, interestingly, this is when I went back to where my roots are, which is probably more a sales marketing type of background. So I think this is for me important as well, is be sure as you are building a career that you are driven by skill, strength, but a core set of values too.
Great, thank you.
Let me remind you that you can submit your questions for Eric and Lisa at yencr@hp.com. That's yencr@hp.com if you want to ask questions for Lisa and Eric. So you've talked about this for a moment, but what roles do you consider key in your careers and why? Because it put your emotional intelligence to test, because it set the grounds for the future. Is there any role that you can recall help you significantly?
A specific role, I guess it's more or less back to what you said. It's probably the collection of roles we build over the years, right? That's ultimately what helps us make the difference. I would maybe single out sales, which for me was more than just a job experience. It was a life experience.
Mm-hmm.
If you really want to know what you are made of, go in sales, right? But my advice, guys, is be successful, because I've been on both sides of the fence. It's great when you're making a lot of money, but it's tough when you're not. So, but I think back to more than the roles, it's the transition between roles for me, which were critical. And I would say the most valuable, albeit the most difficult experiences, were when the transitions were a bit abrupt.
Mm-hmm.
Going from sales, I was more on the enterprise side of the house, sales in one country, to more of a regional job, finance. It's a bit of a stretch. And the stretch is first and foremost to convince people that what you try to do makes sense, because you put yourself on the receiving end, and people who will offer you a job will ultimately ask themselves, well, is this going to work? Because the person is coming with somewhat limited experience in the area where I want to backfill the role. And I think I had 2 of those major job changes, and I would say in hindsight they were probably in each case a very defining moment for me.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's good. I think, and we may have maybe unintentionally given finance a bad rap, so let me go back and say I think my first couple of finance roles were really, really critical. I think finance is a great foundation skill set, and in every subsequent role, I've been able to utilize that fully. So I think having a strong financial background is a really strong asset. For me, every role has been a learning opportunity, but learning is one of my top 5 strengths, and that's what I seek when I look for new opportunities. So I don't know if I would single out any other role. When I was in sales, I remember presenting to the first, CIO. I thought, I was never going to survive the experience. So that's really great to put you out there and center stage, and really need to be prepared. So that was a great experience from that point. But I think for me, the relationships at work have been really pivotal in my career. So people I've worked for, people I've worked with, people that have mentored me, that's also really shaped my career. So not just the roles I've performed, but the connections, the network, the relationships have really been instrumental and still are today. So that's something that I think everybody should dedicate and invest in within your career, is to network, to make strong relationships, and to learn from other people's experiences. That's why I'm motivated to do things like this.
Thank you, Lisa. So what about challenges? We talk about challenges, and you mentioned a little bit about this already, but let's take it to another level, even personal. Have you had personal challenges while growing within your career?
Never. It's a piece of
Next
cake.
question.
Not really. I'll share one that comes top of mind that's near and dear to my heart. So when I decided to relocate to Costa Rica with my family, and it was very much a life decision. We had looked at many countries and looked at many life experiences and thought, okay, what do we want to do for our family and what would be good for our careers and our kids and all of our future. So we chose Costa Rica, and I was on maternity leave, and I had several levels of management support me in doing a rotation into delivery. And when I came back, because I took a year off, I was off for a year, enjoying my family, enjoying my new country, Costa Rica, all of those good things. 3 levels of management had left HP by the time I returned. So when I came back, I didn't have a job. I had nobody that remembered that I had an agreement to find a job, and I had to start over. And I was in a new country and didn't have very many connections in my new country, and really had to cultivate that from scratch. So that was challenging on many levels, and it took me 4 months. So I'm not a very patient person. That seemed like an eternity to secure that next opportunity, and that opened the door to operations. While I thought I would be working in delivery, I didn't imagine I would ever go to customer operations, and that's actually where it took me. And so it was a really challenging time for me personally, professionally, and on an emotional level as well as intellectual level. Good experience. I had an opportunity to build a new network set of contacts, and found a new job, and built on that. But really unexpected and very challenging in the process. But sometimes my experience from that was, you dig deeper when you have bigger challenges, and it gives you a higher sense of confidence and a higher sense of resiliency. So it was good looking back. Wasn't so fun in the process.
Of course. It was great to have you here.
I'm happy to be here. Yeah.
Yeah, I would echo your approach, or what you said, Lisa, which is, if you look back over 20 years, it's not a specific challenge, but you will probably remember those. Make no mistake, over 20 years you're going to be tested, personally or in your career, and we'll all go through these phases. Even though when you are in the early stage, you dream and you think, everything will be fine and rosy, but trust me guys, you're going to be challenged, right? And I think ultimately for me what matters is, it's never pleasant when you are down, but what matters is to figure out how you're going to climb back up, right? So, and it's like, what's next, and learn from yourself, well, how far am I willing to go to climb back up, right? So, and as you said, the deeper you dig, the deeper you're going to learn about yourself. Okay, so I'm not saying intentionally try to go as deep as you can, but it's that's for me what the challenges are for, and I would even say, try to keep challenging yourself on an ongoing basis. It's never a given. It's like, I wake up every morning and I'm challenging myself every morning. If you ask me what for me is an ongoing challenge, is I'm obsessive about how can I bring value to the company and how can I bring value to my organization, to my people.
Great.
Okay, so it's more like proactively. I'm not trying to stress myself out where it's not required, but it's the kind of positive energy that you want to build from challenges.
Right. Is there a strategy for career development?
As I'm used to say, if there was one, I would write a book and I would be a millionaire. I would not work at HP anymore, right?
And there's a lot of those bestsellers you could go off and read. Yeah, I'm a big believer that everybody maps your own career development pathway and that no two are alike. Back to maybe an earlier comment I made, I think the more you network, the more you connect, the greater diverse relationships that you build, the more exposure you get to different pathways that may offer you ideas and challenge maybe some thought processes that could have a limiting set of beliefs. But I don't think there's any right way, there's no wrong way. Everybody needs to embrace their way, their own way, and discover it. I think the biggest fallacy on career development is expecting that somebody's going to lead you on a pathway.
Mhm.
So I think if you embrace driving your own destiny and creating your own pathway, then any direction you want to go can lead you there. You just need to
Mhm.
drive and take the helm.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say map out a plan, right?
Mhm.
And then navigate through it the best possible way. But to assume, I know will disappoint maybe some of you guys who have a plan for the next 20 years and you know how you're going to become the CEO of the company. Use this as a way to drive yourself, but 20 years down the road you will look back and say, well, this was probably not a very realistic plan. But I would say three things for me is one, be yourself. Back to what I said, you need to look yourself up in the mirror and be yourself. I've been there, I've tried to at some point in time. I won't give you the specific context and details. I was morphing myself into somebody else, and it doesn't help you from a career development standpoint.
Right.
And be yourself means you bring strength and you bring weaknesses, right? So
Mhm.
control your weaknesses and hammer as hard as you can on your strength. The second thing I would say, pace yourself. It's a long road, right? Lisa and I running, so we were chatting the other day about long distance running, and you've got to pace yourself. And what you need to realize is, as hard as you want to run, some people are gifted, and no matter what, they will run faster than you are. That's life, right? And work is the same. And then the third learning for me is enjoy yourself.
Mhm.
Don't stay in a job where you don't have fun. You need to come back to work and every day be the happiest person in the world about the work you do. So
Great. Thank you.
anyway,
So we have a lot of people out there. I'm pretty sure a lot might be looking for that next step in their careers. So what kind of advice can you give them of some of the things that you look when you're interviewing people for your organizations? What do you look when you're interviewing?
Well, I answered that already.
Yeah.
So, but maybe to build on that, I mean, again, I think having somebody that's referred by somebody that you trust that's in your network is really
Okay.
important.
Network.
So another way to, get abreast of new opportunities is to use your network. I mean, I have never personally found a job on Job Finder in my
Mhm.
23-year
Okay.
career. So I've always been presented opportunities or referred to opportunities, from a network that knew about that before it was posted.
Okay.
So, when you're ready for a job, communicate that, make sure everybody around you knows that, and, include your network to help you look for a new opportunity. Take initiative.
Okay. That is a great one. I'm pretty sure a lot of people normally looks for jobs at job search.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
But
I don't
then-
want to stop people from doing that,
Right.
but that's one way. Build other ways as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah, I would two things for me. I would look for the passion,
Okay.
the genuine motivation. It's always easier to aim for the best with great people, right? So I'm looking for people who are passionate about what they do, and then and it's sometimes difficult to identify. I'm trying to identify the potential.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, where could this person go 10, 20 years down the road, right? Lisa and I watched an interview with Steve Jobs, which I personally would recommend it. It's called The Last Interview, and it's amazing because at least Jobs is one of my role models. And he's talking about the way he identified what he calls the A leaders to ultimately build what Apple became. And it's fascinating. He was looking for not only people with the great skills, but people who would bring something unique from outside the normal business world, right? And he would contend this is where the creativity culminated at its best at Apple.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, you have a set of standard attributes and strengths you're looking for, but as I said, you want to look for the extra little thing that somebody will bring in terms of a passion or the potential, and
That sixth sense.
Yeah.
Charisma.
Charisma, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Energy and passion. Yeah. No, I think it's really important.
Well, I think we're going to open it up for questions from
Sure.
the audience. Let's remind the audience that you can submit a question to yencr@hp.com. That's yencr@hp.com. And we have one question here. My question is for Lisa and Eric. How to be patient when you think it is the moment to take the next step in your career, but maybe that window is not yet open in your current position or business group. And the reason I am asking this is because I have been with HP for 6 years, and I really want to build my career in HP. Do you recommend this person?
Yeah, no, it's a good scenario, and I think it's one we've all found at one time or another, ready to make a move and not seeing exactly the next step or the next opportunity that opens itself. Patience is a hard thing. I shared earlier, I'm not a very patient person, but I think when you are choosing a job, you need to use patience to make sure you're making the right leap, that you're not jumping into a role to escape another role that perhaps you're tired or frustrated or bored with, and not moving into something that you would enjoy much more and grow from the experience. I think being connected and networking and exposing your interest in looking for a job as wide as you can creates the best source of opportunities. I mean, as I shared, that's been a key success for me in identifying opportunities, is having the help and asking for help for other people to identify opportunities as well. And in HP Costa Rica, we have 18 lines of business. So make sure you're not looking only in your line of business. There's a much wider playground to look at. Use your colleagues and friends and family that work in other parts of the company to understand what businesses are growing and investing and hiring as well. I know when I made my last move, I had been looking for over a year, so I was really ready. And I feel really good about the move I made, but it was really tough to wait the time to find that next move. So I can understand the sentiment. There's no magic answer.
Right.
I wish I had one and I could share. But I think, expose yourself in the context of what you're looking for and engage as many people in your network to help you look, would be my advice.
Yeah, I would say I would go back to the plan I was referring to, that you want to build when you're young and you dream, and a few years later you turn back and you realize, well, wasn't necessarily executed this way. But the plan is there to help you guide your decisions. And if Lisa is impatient, I'm extremely impatient. Right?
I cover my
So,
impatience better than Eric.
But exactly. Yeah. But because otherwise the impatience will possibly prompt you to make the wrong decision. And let me give you an example. I recall I was in Germany at the time. I was at the regional level, and my wife and I had agreed that we would seriously consider an opportunity in the States. And at some point in time, I made a move, and I felt I was ready from there on to make the big jump over the pond, right? And back to, this is where you need mentors, coaches, people will give you the right perspective. And people came to me and they said, Eric, you may not accept it yet, but you still need to make one more move here in Europe before you need to go to the States. And it was hard, it was frustrating, but you know what, guys, in hindsight, it was really one of the best advices I got, because otherwise I would have made another move, and I don't know where I would be today, but probably not here in the States. And so think about a plan there to kind of guide or frame your overall decision along the way. So
Great. Thank you.
Do we have any more questions?
Yes, we have another one. Given the fact that career development is a hot topic on the table, how easy would you say it is possible to do an internship or an exploratory loan within a new organization that you find interesting without leaving for good your current organization or role? And I would add country.
this
I
is
mean,
very more for
not
you,
necessarily,
Marshall.
but that's the question.
Yeah, we don't have a lot of programs in HP Costa Rica to do rotational project opportunities. I think I would recommend getting involved in some of the leadership development programs that build in cross-functional projects that give you exposure to other businesses. So one that's currently enrolling new applicants is HIPO, High Potential Program. You can also volunteer, because I know a number of employees that seek a business or a leader that they're very interested in learning more about their organization and offer up their services. I have 5 hours a week to learn on something new. I'm very interested in this project. Is there anything I can get involved in and learn and contribute? I mean, the leaders of HIPO are two business leaders from TS that graduated from the program, were so impressed with the program that they gave back and they developed the program for others. It's a perfect example of learning, investing, growing, and giving back, yet volunteering because it's not their day job. So there's many ways you can contribute, but it's sad to me because coming from the US where there are more rotational internship opportunities, we don't have that in Costa Rica. It is definitely on the radar. I know Maria Luisa is exploring that. Even looking at university hires into internship roles before they full-time enroll at HP. So there's investment and focus there, but I think nothing structured that you can really leverage today.
Maybe a good opportunity for Jen to start helping.
Maybe a good opportunity for Jen.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Exactly.
Very good idea.
Okay, I'm not finished reading this question, but let's just do it. You mentioned the diversity of roles you have worked at. However, I am trying to find my spot at work. The people near me, my family, at work, at school, they have given me the advice of focusing in one area. Would you say a person should know a little bit about everything? Or is it better idea to focus just in HR or finance or operations, etc.? I would like to hear your opinion about that. There's a second question here. During your career, did you feel like giving up at some point? Did you doubt about the choices you made before? If so, how did you handle those feelings? So let's go for the first question first.
I think, as Lisa said, I mean, there's no unique way, right? So I would tell you, I asked myself that question when I was in sales. I love sales, and could I have pursued in sales and tried to move up the ranks? Yes, but it was more my personal decision, more from a learning standpoint and the desire to build something broader that pushed me in more of a diverse direction, right? I ended up working in 3-4 different functions in different countries, but there's for me no clear evidence, at least up to a certain level, that being somewhat monolithic in how you pursue your career will be a detriment. Now, at the same time, the world is becoming more and more global, so my sense is increasingly diversity of experiences will become critical to set some apart from others. So that's my perspective.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think you could have a very specific job goal, you know, a controller of a division, and there's a certain set of financial experiences and expertise you need to attain to get there. But even today, you look at a lot of our senior finance executives, and they have very diverse experiences. And that, to me, or you know, maybe R&D might be another pathway that may seem rather narrow. But I think the people that are most successful have had cross-functional experience. So it's not to say you don't need to achieve a certain level of competency in a function before you move on. I think you should strive to be competent in everything you do. It's just that unless there's something that really compels and drives you and you see a clear shot and it's a deep pathway in one function, great if that fits. But if it doesn't, realize that there's, you know, a wide world of opportunities out there for you to experiment with.
Okay. I think the second question is
Frustration.
right? Have you felt like you give up?
I don't know if I felt that I would like to give up, but I have certainly felt frustration. And from a career development and, you know, even from, you know, learning from a failure experience or, you know, a really working with very tough people. I mean, I've had, you know, one manager in my past that I can remember that I didn't align values with. That was a really, really hard place for me to work in that environment. When you don't trust or respect people, it becomes really hard to operate and partner with them. I can say, you know, out of 23 years, I've only had one leader that I have had that situation in, so I was very happy to escape that environment. But I think one thing we haven't talked much about, and I know it's core for Eric as it is for me, of having kind of a well-rounded perspective, so work-life balance, having passions and interests outside of work, because that's how I deal with frustrations at work. You know, I will go for a run, or I will go spend time with my family, or I will cook something. I'm not a great cook. I bake. I bake chocolate chip cookies and brownies and things like that.
Fine with me.
I'm a sweets person. But I mean, I have a lot. I love to read. I love to do, you know, stitchery and knitting and projects. And so, I mean, I have so many passions. And so, you know, when I'm really frustrated, I will, you know, end one focus and move on to something I really enjoy that feeds me and revives me. And I really try and strike the balance. And I can tell you there's waves of that. I'm in a current wave where it's very intense at work and I'm having little time for my outdoor passions and things. But it's important to me to regulate that. I will exercise and I will do the things that, you know, I need to sustain kind of a whole me. But when I'm in the most stressful and challenging times, that's really important for me to remember.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I would say two things. Mind the frustration because it is what could lead you to making poor long-term decisions. So you've got to learn to deal with the frustration, and I would be clear. Yeah, I've had my frustrations, but for me it's especially to be a leader because I mean there's plenty of frustration. You're going to be tested as a leader left and right 24/7, right? By people, anyway, so your boss. But ultimately, for me, the trick is to convert the frustration into a positive energy. I mean, at some point in time, the frustration is what helps me getting some positive quote-unquote rage in me, which ultimately will force me to drive to a positive outcome. Okay, so yeah, don't let the frustration put you down because otherwise you will go down to a downward spiral and it's never beneficial to me. But it's inevitable. It's part of you need to learn to cope with frustration.
Right. And I think that relates to another question. When making the decision of whether pursuing individual contributor paths or people management paths, and many people are today at that stage where they don't know what would they like to pursue. What would you say, and if you felt at some point at that crossroads?
I can begin. I mean, I've spent half my career as an individual contributor and the other half as a people leader. And I did it serially, right? So I was individual contributor the first half, and then when I jumped into leadership, I haven't changed paths. But I've seen many very successful leaders go back and forth. So take on a chief of staff individual contributor role as an example, leaving a people leadership role and then returning to a people leadership role later. I don't think there's one pathway, as we've talked about. And I think you have to know in yourself if you want to be a people leader. I mean, it's a very unique set of joy, challenge, requirements. I mean, you have to love to lead people. You have to love to grow people. You have to love to communicate with people. I mean, when you're an individual contributor, you control your destiny, right? Everything you do, you get a credit for or a penalty for. You're kind of driving the game. When you're a leader, all of a sudden you are spreading yourself a lot thinner, and you are taking on much more responsibility for others' actions. So then your ability to influence, inspire, motivate, teach, develop becomes all the more important, but it's also very, very time consuming, right? Because you're still doing that for yourself,
Right.
and then you're doing it for many others. But it's, for me, it's a passion and a love. So once you discover that, I mean, I would never think of changing that, because that's something that really inspires me and I love to do. But there could be points in your career where you don't have that time or energy or passion to devote, and maybe individual contributor roles could be better. I think it's a very personal decision, but I think there's a lot of opportunities to explore leadership. I mean, you could be a team lead, you can lead a project with many people and not have direct accountability for people. So if you're an individual contributor and interested in that pathway, I would say take on some responsibilities that gets you into the game, where you can experience that and explore it. And Hypo's another example. The High Potential program gives you a lot of leadership experiences. You can try that on and see if you're interested, and if so, pursue that pathway. But there's many ways to do that apart from just a job.
Right.
Yeah, I would say it's an important question though, because fact is, if you want to lead a sizable organization, at some point in time you need to make the jump and start managing people, right? As an IC, you will always be a limited. I think the timing of when you need to feel ready, because if you're not, this could be extremely painful. It's like being in sales and not be successful in sales, right? And don't do it for the money, don't do it for the title, do it because you can. Ultimately enough, this, at least it's a statistics in the States, the manager is a second person the most talked about in the house. So meaning you need to understand, you start impacting people's life every day. And I've been managing people like Lisa, half my career as an IC and half as a manager. There are still many days or nights where I will be obsessed about something specific to one of my people or my organization, but this is where your passion needs to come into play. Do it because you really believe you can make a difference in people's life. Otherwise, I mean, you're not going to be happy, you're not going to make people happy. But that's an important decision. And the timing, ultimately, the balance is, are you going to build the deck of experiences you need as an IC? And then you move in a people management role, and then you can assume that there's a way to accelerate the growth. Or instead, are you going to move faster in a people management role, but you still need to build the skills and the assets you need to become a leader, right? So, again, I don't think there's any specific role here.
Thank you.
Well, now Lisa was mentioning a little bit about getting into projects. Some people in their roles don't think that they have the ability to get into a specific project within their organization. So maybe another good advice for people is get into an ERG. Jen, we have a lot of projects going on. You can contact us. There is 2 different other ERGs within Costa Rica. There are projects within the leadership team. So I will encourage people to get in projects and lead for a specific project.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think employee resource groups are great, FEM, Pride, Gen. Even going to your manager and saying, is there a team building project, or is there something that the business needs that I could help lead in and build this skill set? So, we all build development plans and FPR objectives. Have that discussion with your leader. We just did mid-year reviews. What a perfect time to have that conversation. So yeah, great idea.
The latest research that you see now in magazines points at the fact that job descriptions don't exist anymore. And really, that's where we are moving to. I mean, if you stick to a job description and just, focus on what you're supposed to be doing, you don't take the lead on these extra opportunities for exposure, you may not be necessarily accelerating in your career. So what do you think about that? I mean, is that true?
About what?
About job descriptions not existing anymore?
Or limiting yourself to what your job description says? I think it's true. I think it's, as a leader that builds job descriptions, it's often very hard to nail down everything that you expect in a role. But that's exactly a starting point, right? That's baseline expectation. So if you think about our rating scale, if you set out and did what was on your job description, you're achieving your expectations, which is middle of the road, right? So if you have aspirations to excel and to exceed expectations, then you've got to help craft what those exceptional things will be that you will contribute.
Yeah, we can debate if job descriptions the classic way still exist, but what won't change is, as leader, you owe clarity to your people about what you expect them to do.
Right.
Okay? And then you need to provide them. I'm a strong believer in, ultimately, people and great people will define jobs and great jobs. So
Right.
I'm trying to provide a lot of flexibility to my people to go expand the role, but at the same time you still need to provide a minimum of guidance to your team, and they expect that out of you, right?
Okay. There's a complicated one here.
Because the other ones were simple?
We were just warming up.
Okay, thank you.
Should you wait for external motivation for development, or is it something internal? I brought this up because sometimes people tend to copy someone else's path and they do not succeed.
Well, back to what I said, be yourself.
Yeah. No, I think that
Be
too.
yourselves. Yeah.
You can be inspired by somebody else's path and get an idea from somebody
Mhm.
else's path, but if you're not passionate and willing to commit and do what it takes to be successful at it, you won't be, right?
Right.
So there's got to be a combination, but I'm a believer at, being exposed to all different pathways and ideas and, diverse perspectives, but then choosing your own pathway. And, to Eric's point, at which I'm a firm believer of, aligned with your values.
Mhm.
Because you'll never be successful at following somebody else's pathway if you don't personally align to that from a value perspective.
Okay. Do you have any other questions?
No, I think we're almost at the top of the hour.
I wanted to ask you a question. Well, you both mentioned sports, as part of your life, and you talked about it while talking about your career. What role does sports play in your success?
Maybe I can start this one, right?
Sure.
Well, there are a few things playing a key role in not just my success, but who I am, right? So it has to do with my wife and my family. It has to do with sport. It has to do with music, right?
Okay.
And I won't go into the music details, but specific to sport, I use sport different ways. I'm trying to, not when I travel, but when I'm home in the States, I'm trying to go to the fitness center every day. And at first it was to stay healthy, and I would encourage all of us to do whatever it takes to stay healthy, especially with the stressful lives we have sometimes. But it has become more a way to break away from work. And I need this mental break every day. Because here's what I do. If I don't go to the fitness center, what do? I stay home and I work.
Check email.
Exactly. So that's one. Then I do competitive sport, which I've done all my life in different sports, I continue running competitively, and I'm an average runner, right?
Right.
It's a way to stay in shape, but running has told me a lot about myself. And back to what I was saying, pace yourself. You learn a lot. I'm running a long distance half marathon. You've got to learn how to pace yourself. Don't start too fast, otherwise you will be panting after a mile on the left or right on the street, right? Respect the fact that no matter what you do or how hard you train, some people will be gifted, right?
Right.
And make sure that you drive yourself hard, but to the point where you can still enjoy crossing the line, as opposed to, it happened to me a couple of times, where you drive yourself hard and not like you do fantastically better, you just 10 seconds better than last year, right? And then but at the same time, you're about to die. So anyway, so for me, it's all about getting the work-life balance, getting the right mental balance, and yeah, as I said, in my case, pacing myself. So.
Yeah, no, I aspire to a lot of the ideas that Eric outlined. I mean, for me, sports is a healthy lifestyle, so it's important for me to participate in that and to lead that for my family. I mean, I do a lot of sports with my kids, and I enjoy that. And it's also a mental and a physical break from work. So, like Eric, I don't go every day, but I try 4 to 5 times a week. But especially during the week when I'm working, because it's just a really nice boundary to create.
So, Lisa, what are the improvements for the Costa Rica people / leads in order to continually grow the business and have new opportunities to develop a career in Costa Rica or else?
Okay, I think we've talked a lot about leadership skills and how to embrace that, how to develop those. We talked about hypo. One of the things we haven't yet talked about that I think is really important, especially as I know there's so many Costa Ricans that seek a global career, is mastering English. So really developing your communication skills so that you can present credibly and speak clearly and confidently and interact with your global colleagues wherever they are across the globe. And I know in Costa Rica that's something that we're working really hard in. Even in my board of director role in AmCham, global skills and English language skills is a competency we're looking at across the country. How do we invest in certification? How do we invest in programs that demonstrate that competency? Because that's one of the reasons why many multinationals come to Costa Rica.
Right.
Very strong education, strong communication skills, and we at HP have an opportunity to really accelerate that communication skill by operating in English.
Okay. Thank you very much. Do you have anything to add, Eric? I think we have reached the purpose of this interview. Patrick?
I just want to share with everyone, if you haven't been taking notes, this is the time to do it, because I've been taking my notes out of the great experience that we have shared with Lisa and Eric today. I have 9 key points here. So, getting a mentor, that is one of the tips. Have a very positive attitude. Map your career. Network. Be yourself. Your values. Work-life balance. Love what you do, and communication skills. So thank you very much, Eric, Lisa. It was a pleasure to have you here.
It was a pleasure for us.
Absolutely.
And thank you for joining.
Thank you very much, Lisa. Thank you for being here. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.